All right, guys. So, I have been using this app to record my podcast. The app is called Anchor. You can find it easily at anchor.fm. And it is seriously the easiest way to be able to produce a podcast. And I had been looking everywhere for a way to make this podcast. So I have no better suggestion than to say look right here at anchor.fm, because guess what? Best option. It's free. And they even have all the creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Anchor is even going to distribute your podcast so it can be heard all over Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all the different areas of where podcasts can be listened to. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership, and it's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. So all you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And hey, let's podcast together. Hello and welcome back to Be Fair, starring Aaron Jordan Peterson. I am Aaron Jordan Peterson, and this is a very special episode to me. It was a late night phone call that took place between Lisa and I again, and with this one we ended up getting a little bit more into a deep dive about our mental health and where we are now, where we were then, and a little bit more. And I was really excited to have this conversation, and I'm very excited to share it with you. So stay tuned and enjoy this very special episode of To Be Fair, starring me, Aaron Jordan Peterson, with my guest star, Lisa Forstall. Good evening, Miss Lisa. How are you?
Well, hello. I'm doing just fabulous. How are you?
Oh, just not too bad, not too bad. Just relaxing in for another late night phone call with Lisa.
Excellent.
And I think tonight I was deciding we should talk about a little bit of what I like to call now and then, where we talk a little bit about who we are as people now and who we were at one point. And I kind of like pointing on a few times where we know personally we remember things about ourselves back then that are locked in, and we remember those moments either as a positive or negative on how it has structured the person we are now. Does that make sense?
It does.
I'm like super smart sometimes. uh, but no, I really kind of think that's a really good style and format. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about who we are today. So why don't you go ahead and start? Share some things about who you are.
Well, today, I have a lot more clarity in my life today than I did back then. Um,
Sure.
I'm far more accepting about who I am, and I'm a lot more comfortable with that. Um, I I don't really care what people think of me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've over the past few years, I've gone through so much, and I've told you a bit about my story and what's
Yep.
happened, and it's really changed my outlook on life. And I'm still full of empathy and compassion like I always have been. I love to help people still, but
Mm-hmm.
being alone now is so peaceful. Like
Yeah.
I'm not lonely when I'm alone, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like I don't crave attention anymore like I used to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm I'm so grateful I get to spend time with my family and make memories with my family, and to be able to tell my story to people, and hopefully, whoever I tell that story to, even if they take one thing away from it, um, that means that what happened to me wasn't in vain. So yeah, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm much calmer, which is strange because I'm still a weirdo, like whack job, but it's it's a different kind, a different level. You
We use
know,
a, we use those we use those super scientific terms. I'm a weirdo.
yeah, a whack job, but you know,
It's funny when you say that because it's like I have always known I've been a weirdo, in that sense. I've always known that I've been the oddball and I didn't fit into what I was kind of taught I was supposed to. Um, and so like who I am today is more accepting of that person, of the flaws, the negative things that I have dealt with my entire life and tried to pretend didn't exist. And actually, I feel like I play the victim a lot less than I did before.
I can completely relate to that. I have learned that accountability is a large part of me going to sleep at night with a
Hmm.
clear mind.
Right?
And I have learned that if I wanted to change, that I have to do it on my own. Nobody is gonna, no amount of popularity, no amount of, social media or putting myself out there is going to fix what's on the inside.
I
And
totally agree.
yeah, and I've accepted that being a work in progress is healthy. I have my negative qualities and I have my positive qualities and I have things that I'm working on and things that I accept now. And so just thinking back, you know, my God, even 10 years or ooh, Lord help me, 15,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I'm a completely different mindset from back then.
I like that you brought up social media though, as the point of the fact that so many of us crave social media attention in so many different ways. And for the most part, it's always a negative impact. There's so much drama and there's so much just negative behavior. And we've had social media for near 20 years, if you think about it.
I
Um,
know. I was
I
just
mean, with
thinking about MySpace.
Oh, MySpace, but before I love that our conversation has spun to this, but it's part of Now and Then, I think. Um,
Right.
it's social media has really changed the world for so many different reasons, and I have the pro and con list in my life for the most part. And so I'm one of those people that I see friends that they're like, "Oh, I'm gonna get rid of all social media and just live social media free." I'm like, "Okay, have fun being irrelevant." You know, I mean, I say it that way, but I mean, honestly, that just sounds like a fantasy world. It doesn't
Yeah,
exist. It
not
does
anymore.
not.
It doesn't.
I just feel it doesn't. There's so much that we need the internet for nowadays. I mean, I can barely schedule an appointment with my doctor or my therapist or anyone or my stylist without going on social media now or internet at least. You know, they're all driving us there. So I'm like embracing it and the fact that, like, I mean, clearly I'm a podcaster. So, I mean, I love the internet because I like to get my voice out there, but I feel that now I'm the type where I like to use social media to a benefit to help get a positive message out there. And if I'm not getting a positive message out there, then really what am I doing but only feeding the dramatic system that it is?
Right. I feel, 10, 15 years ago, drama the drama was more organic.
Right?
Face or like not face to face arguments, but the bickering behind your back and, oh, he said, she said, and now it's all put out publicly.
Yep.
If say, you do something and I don't like it, I'm click, 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 updating my
Oh,
status and
oh
I'm
my
feeling
God. And
angry and yeah.
it's some of the most toxic behaviors of the most toxic people are so shown to light in social media. And it's like the funny thing is that we see people post like that, and then you see them the next day out in public somewhere, and you have to pretend like it didn't happen and be socially in person with that person, because you know for a fact that that person is actually a very anxious, timid coward in public, in face-to-face things. But on the internet, where you have that wall of protection, and it's almost like you can't be held accountable in reality for what you say on the internet. But now there's literally rules by employers that have that say, if you are not representing yourself and the values of us on social media, you will be disciplined. They literally have rules like that because it's so important,
Yeah.
you
Yep.
know.
In fact, where I work at the Damiano, because
Hmm.
I chair the meeting, couple of meetings, that's in their employee handbook. That's like a whole
Yep.
page.
Hmm.
You know,
I
if you don't
and it's,
conduct yourself in the manner that,
mhm.
relates to our mission,
Well,
then
I mean, that's a human service type of industry, mission
yes.
there. Like, just like I worked in mental health right before what I'm doing now. And now you look at the handbook at different places, like, and in mental health, it's very particular on all their social media stuff. Like, I feel like there's a whole handbook about the handbook for the social media aspect of all the addendums, because it changes with all the social media platforms that come out daily you
Hmm.
know I mean, we got that. Okay, so when we're at the now point of this conversation with the social media part, we are at 2020, the year 2020, and we are talking about MySpace is irrelevant, okay, but Facebook is there. And then Facebook has Instagram, and then there's Twitter, and now TikTok and
Yep.
YouTube. You got it, just goes on and on. And we talk about social media in a positive way most of the time. And I find myself like, oh, somebody's like, I meet some new person, and my first instinct is, oh, yeah, follow me on Facebook. Like, that's who we are now. We are the
Right.
Matrix.
Oh, I
I know we
know.
could literally get into this conversation forever, and we could have a whole nother podcast on just conspiracy theories. Um,
We are old enough to say that the internet is ruining our youth.
It's so true. Because I
And
think back to my days, okay, let's go to the then in like
yeah,
the 90s and the early 2000s, when the internet is literally just starting to kind of crawl its head out from behind just the government's use and business
right.
use.
Like
You know,
AOL,
AOL.
America Online.
Oh, and like, I mean, everybody started having that. Like, if you had a computer, if you were lucky enough to have a computer in your household, um, you and then you could have AOL. Oh my God, you were on a whole nother level.
Oh, yes. And then, if you were really, really lucky, like, I mean, and I was really lucky, we had a second phone line. So you could use your phone, you wait forever for that
You,
noise, that fax machine noise to connect you to the online world. And then somebody picks up the phone and disconnects you.
oh, you were super bougie if you could have two lines.
I know.
Yeah.
So bougie in my younger years.
Like, yeah, because like, I mean, I lived in Reamer, Minnesota, population 300, as of the census of 20, oh, I don't remember, but the point is it took a while for the internet to really take off into the rural of rural. And so we did not get a computer in my family until I was probably 15 or 16. So that was probably around 98, 99. Um, and so of course, and I mean, I think the internet we could use it at school, and like we could only, it was like only like one or two computers in the school that had the internet. Um, and it was a big deal because most of the time we were just playing Oregon Trail.
Yes, number
Ba-da-ba-ba-da.
munchers, word munchers.
Oh my God. Like, that's what the computers were for. That was like for like playing games. We were the generation of the Nintendo. you know.
Yes.
And, you know, and then now look where we are in video games as well. And like we've watched it organically happen. It's like we've grown up as this has happened. Like the kids now think that they're the big deal of the internet and where it is, but it's like, oh honey, you have nothing on us. Like
Right.
we were born with the internet. We are the internet, you know?
And today's kids, like, if they really don't understand the struggle of that stupid dog from Duck Hunt,
Oh,
like that struggle is real, you
that is
know?
so real.
And now, all these kids, I feel like they're having these delusions of grandeur with, oh, I'm going to play a video game so I can get paid for it.
Right?
Or I'm going to have a YouTube channel so I can make millions of dollars doing, I don't know,
Okay,
ASMR or whatever it is.
I am not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little bit attacked as the fact that I do monetize this podcast.
But that's a
Um,
whole different level. You're not a like a 14-year-old girl
I get it.
or 16-year-old or whatever.
Like
I mean,
I'm
there
not
are
just
some useful tools, but
well, I do like watching the YouTube girls that like to give like the makeup advice because it's important to some girls. Like they really like the art of doing their makeup nice, and I appreciate that. You
yes,
know.
James Charles.
Yes, and the drag queens and gay men and non-gender binary, sorry, non-binary, like gender fluid people, all the types of people who love to wear makeup. Because even I, on occasion, like to wear makeup. But that's a story for a different podcast.
Right.
Um, but I kind of like where we've gone with this conversation, but I want to bring it back to the now and then, and we talk about we're the kids of the internet. We are the generation of the internet. We're the millennials. We are the beginning of the millennial group. Um, and it's really cool to be a part, like the beginning of a generation. Um, but it's also it's a big burden because we were part of the generation that also, um, parents were starting to get more and more, uh, uh, what's the word? I mean, it was CPS, Child Protective Services, and social services was a lot more involved in what was going on in your family's home than
Right.
it ever had been. And with mine specifically, I'm not going to get into details, but let's just say we had a lot of conversations with sheriff's deputies and social services for different occasions and reasons. But it didn't seem all that uncommon with a lot of people in my area. So it was pretty normal, you know. And I lived in a town with a girls' group home. It's like mental health, chemical dependencies, child rebellion. I mean, I'm part of it. Like I've seen it, and so I've always kind of felt I was stronger than that. And so I think when I was, a younger kid, I just all I wanted to do was grow up and have my own life because I was unhappy where I was. And I can't, that, like I said, these are stories for other times, but I was a young gay boy in Reamer, Minnesota, raised in a very conservative Christian home with two brothers and a very masculine stepfather and a mother who is doing her best. And it's hard to look back at that and be like, I don't blame. I mean, I spent so many years of blaming and just expecting that I was entitled to nothing but a happily ever after. I walked that way and I thought it was just going to come to me. And I'm not that person anymore. I'm not the angry child anymore. And it took a long time for me to not be that angry child anymore.
Yeah. So like what qualities have you grown into as an adult, I guess?
Oh,
Do you think?
yeah. Well, those are good questions because I still don't even know. Like I feel like I've only been an adult for a couple of years. I'm not even kidding.
No, that's fair. Agreed.
I,
I'm same way.
I'm in my mid to late 30s. Um, but yeah, but I mean, I don't feel it. I still feel like I'm that 25-year-old that is still trying to get their life in order because I didn't do the what was expected of me and go to college. I mean, I didn't even graduate high school. I got my GED in 2007, and it was such an accomplishment for me. It was such a big deal for me. I was happy I did it. And of course, why wouldn't I be? But
Right.
I really like my life has been full of regret, and I I think I spent a lot of time thinking I was going to just get a redo, you know, and there was like I've actually been coming up with an idea of a play called Do Over, um, where it's like a hard reset of your life. Like, oh, okay, just hit that. But I'm like worried that I just be plagiarizing like butterfly effect, and it's like, oh crap, that's a can of worms.
Right.
It is. It is, but I mean, for me, the quality that I've taken on, I think that you to answer your question based on that rant I just gave, um, are that I'm more aware of those negative qualities that I carry with myself, even though they still take over and I get those urges to be the angry, like vindictive and vengeance seeking person that if somebody hurts me, I attack in turn. I I I have to fight those qualities every day. Every day. I have to fight to be a better person than my mind wants to make me. And so being self-aware of my negative qualities and learning them more of them every day is probably my strongest quality I've taken into my adult life.
That's amazing because that's the uphill battle.
Yeah.
Like you had said to me last night that, we are our own worst critics.
Right?
And to be able to, you know, I I used to feel like I was a much better person than I think that I actually was.
Hmm.
Because I got mixed up in a lot of drama and I made everybody else's problems my own. Like I tried to carry the weight of the world
Right?
on my back. And looking back, I feel like it probably did more damage than it did help.
Yeah.
And so, looking back at that, and I wasn't extremely straightforward in the then part of my life. Um, but now, if you ask me something, I'm going to tell you straight to you. Like, if you don't, my policy is ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. If you don't want to know the truth, do not come to me.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
don't mean that in a rude way or like, I'm not a jerk about it or I try not to be a jerk about it. But if
Oh, but I
you ask,
totally agree.
yeah, but sometimes in my head, like you were saying, like my brain is just, it sometimes wants to say like the
Hmm.
meanest thing possible,
Hmm.
and I want to go back to that person that hides behind their anger and fear, you know,
Hmm.
but so I have to really work on having a filter without a filter. If I don't know if that makes sense.
It's a filter for your filter.
Yeah,
That's how I feel it is. It's like I mean I know there's more of us out there than just me and you, and it's nice to have this banter of this knowing because you feel alone in this thought. You feel alone in this world when you notice the fact that these are some of those toxic qualities that make people not want to hang around you. And when all I want to do is be an appealing person and have people like me, because I felt like growing up, I never had anyone actually like me, you know? And so all I've done my entire life is try to make sure that people appreciate who I am as a person. And it took me a long time to figure out that I wasn't going to find people to do that until I appreciated me as a person.
very well said.
Thank you.
I remember back then you and I were both people pleasers.
Big time.
If we weren't available or me, I can't speak for you, but for me specifically, I would always go out. I would always buy drinks. I would always
Hmm.
be the shoulder to cry on.
Hmm.
I tried to get okay, so really I always felt like the duff. And
Oh, can we just,
you know,
okay, we're gonna have to unpack that a little bit here. And the reason why is because I was literally having this conversation with somebody the other day. So for people who don't know what a duff is, they made a movie about it a couple years ago with Mae Whitman. Oh, love her. And the duff stands for Designated Ugly Fat Friend. Um, and I feel you on that, Lisa. I do. And here's why is because you're a beautiful woman. You are definitely
Oh,
a beautiful woman. And I really always have thought you were a beautiful woman. But I also know just like me and just like you, we were always outside of the shapes that were preferred by society. You know?
yes, very
We
much.
we were, and we have flaws that were very obvious to people. You know, we were never like we weren't the Vogue models of today. And then,
Right,
um,
right.
so, but and so of course, in society's norms and just definitions, I suppose you and I would both be considered the Duffs.
Right. And
Mhm.
now looking at it, like I have learned that my attitude towards myself then, you know, worrying about what people thought of me and worrying about what oh, am I too fat? Am I too this? Does my hair look right? Should I
Mhm.
cut it this way or whatever? I've, that's me deflecting my own insecurities onto other people. Back then,
Yeah.
it was severe for me. When I was dating Dave, I had so many insecurities. Someone could tell me that he was somewhere else, and I would completely lose control of my emotions because I was so worried that he was going to find somebody better, air quotes.
Hmm.
And so that insecurity, which stemmed from, you know, childhood,
Sure.
um, it just, it snowballed into, and it's that vicious cycle for me. Like back then, it's kind of like strangely like the line from uh Austin Powers with Fat Bastard. I'm unhappy because I eat and I eat because I'm unhappy.
It's a catch 22. It's a never ending
Yeah,
cycle. Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword that I cut myself on both sides of it, and then I got to a point where, of course, I had my weight loss surgery and I lost 187 pounds at my smallest.
Hmm.
That's like a
Oh,
person,
I
you know?
remember. I remember right after, and your pictures on Facebook. After that point, I was just like, I didn't recognize you. I did not.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's also because you also, for the most part, when we were in our early 20s, I think you were mostly the time blonde, and then you decided to not be blonde anymore. So that
Oh, I
was the
was
first.
red. I was red. I
Yes.
was not blonde. Blonde is a
Well,
bad color for me.
okay, you were blonder than you are today.
Yes, very
Yeah,
much
okay.
so.
I,
But
I
it's
suppose, yeah.
oh, I was gonna say, but as far as like then and now,
Hmm.
even when I was even so I thought, I'm gonna lose all this weight, my life is gonna be better instantly.
Yeah,
Well, getting skinny doesn't fix your mental health.
exactly.
And in getting skinny, because at 135 pounds at my height, I looked skinny. I
Hmm.
was looking a little too skinny. And um I didn't know now how to process all the attention I was getting for the other reasons now because I was that girl that fit into that societal attractive bubble.
Yeah. And suddenly you're like a whole different person.
Right.
Yeah. And you don't know how to be that person.
And I wasn't that person.
Hmm.
I tried,
Hmm.
but it's taken me a long time to realize that if you can be in all kinds of different recovery, whether it be drugs, alcohol, mental health, etc.
Hmm.
But not if you're not helping your mind recover and heal, it doesn't matter how long, like say, okay, my example is my drug addiction.
Hmm.
Um, I could be sober from the actual drug, but still be stuck in addiction because I haven't let my mind and my heart heal and
Yeah.
process through the trauma. So yeah, it's crazy how much I've learned in the last, 10, 12 years.
Mm-hmm. I can, yeah, I can't relate to any type of chemical dependency addictions in any way, shape, or form because I mean I smoked cigarettes, sure, for from the time I was 13 until just last spring. Um and yeah, I'm almost 1 year off cigarettes. It's amazing. I was
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And that's the thing is I gave up most of my life to cigarettes. That was and so I think I'm playing this game of catch up lately, with all the nows and thens, of when I shut myself off to my mental illness. And I never got into drugs or alcohol. Can I go to a bar and appreciate a beer or a glass of wine or a cocktail and not worry about it, like me wanting more and more? Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's something I get to be proud of for myself because I know that my family struggles with addiction. Um, and I would just boost, I would be so cocky about that. I'd be like, oh, I never have to worry about that. I'm not even addicted. I can go a year without an alcoholic beverage and it doesn't bother me. And that's not me bragging. That's just how I was. Um, and then same with drugs. I mean, I have a lot of my family members have been on all the drugs, probably not
Hmm.
all at once because they're still alive. So probably they've probably tried them one at a time or maybe a couple. But either way, lots of drug addiction in my family, as with a lot of people's families. It's common. It's very common. We don't know that because not all of us are comfortable sharing our dirty laundry with the world. Um, but uh, I'm okay with it because it's something that I accept as part of my family and the possibilities. Instead, for me, my addictions manifested into the weird, not so weird either, but like some people might get gambling addictions or sex addictions or anything. Mine's literally just materialistic addictions. I just love to have stuff. And I'm not a hoarder. Like I haven't gotten there yet. Glad that became self-aware of this as a problem for me before it became a problem for me.
Definitely. Definitely.
And
I wish that I had that same revelation. However, our journeys are quite different. So,
well, and that's the thing is that we all end up having those kind of revelations at some point. It's really how we decide we're going to accept those to make that change. And I will tell you that every day is a new day where it's like, okay, I was really good and responsible yesterday. Today is my cheat day, and I'm going to try and be a little more selfish. And you can be just a little bit more selfish to yourself that way because you did the best you could do the day before, and I didn't hurt someone's feelings. I didn't. I mean, because that's one of my biggest things. I literally have no filter, and I literally cry about that to this day now. I I don't think about what other people might be feeling about what I think about them because I'm okay with people being blunt to me, and that's for me. It took me a while to get there, and I'm very proud of myself for that. But I forget that there are still people out there that don't appreciate the blunt, brutal honesty that I'm okay with. And I forget that that's okay that they're not okay with that. But it's hard for me to adapt to that now that I've become that person. And I'm an artist that way. I'm a director and I want to work with my group of comedians that I help work with and they help me. I'm very brutal, but I'm also I make sure that I show out those positive. Like, here you go. You got this. You got this. You got this. Oh my God. I love when you do this. But but here you go. Here's the things you need to work on. And I don't sugarcoat it. And that's because I wish people would have sugarcoated things a lot less for me when I was becoming the artist I am today, because I think I could have grown faster, but I was coddled by a lot of people because I think people knew that I had social awkwardness and I was a different type of person. And so they tried to protect me. This is my perspective, that I think they tried to protect me from myself in so many ways. And nobody did me any of those types of favors, you know.
Right. Yeah. To a certain point, it's okay for, to be, I guess, not coddled, but to be protected from
Hmm.
ourselves. But when it's like there's a fine line of when is it helping versus when is it enabling bad behavior,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and
Um,
that's a very fine line.
and that's the thing I like about what I'm learning about myself now is because of who I was then as a teenager. Like as a teenager, I was an angry, angry, angry teenager because I felt entitled to a redo. There's a lot of crumbling happening.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. It's gonna be great for the episode.
Right.
What are we crumpling?
I was
Uh,
actually uncrumpling. It's
oh,
a list of something that I got from the meeting that I do.
okay,
Um,
okay.
yeah, we can either get to it or not. I just noticed it up here in the bed in Houston's bedroom. But anyways,
um, But yeah, so I just really want to finish up that my thought there is the fact that it's enlightening to know where we are from in our recovery. But I like knowing that I might not be fully recovered. I may get to that point. That might be one lucky thing I get. But I love the fact that I get to admit that I'm not perfect. I'm flawed. I am uh broken. I am destroyed, but I'm also healing. I'm also getting better. Every day I get a chance to be better. And those are the things I get to wake up to knowing that today is a new day to try again. And so in a way you get a do-over. You just still age while you do it.
right. Um,
And that's the thing I'm accepting is the fact that my mortality is really sinking in.
yeah, I don't like to think about that, even though it's very,
I know
very prominent thought. It's
it
always
is.
in there. It's always in there
Maybe
in the background, but
maybe that's a topic of discussion for an actual time. But you
sure.
had a thought that I totally just interrupted.
Oh, uh, yeah.
Oh,
It'll come back, I'm sure. Um,
okay. But yeah, so what if there's let's take this time to kind of start wrapping up, and let's say if there was a moment that you got to go talk to 16-year-old Lisa and give her just a couple pointers without changing too much of the future, but giving just enough to give you a little bit more confidence, what would be the two things you would tell her?
I would tell her that you don't need a boyfriend to have value because for a long time, I mean, up until I got out of my adult timeout, honestly, I was so codependent on having a relationship for validation,
Mm-hmm.
that I would definitely put it in her ear that she is worth it. She's independent and strong, and she does not need to be in a relationship to have value. And I would also tell her, ugh, pursue your dreams. I know that's very broad, very generic, but I I didn't do anything that I wanted to do back then. I didn't go to college. I had all these aspirations. I wanted to be a nurse. I never did that. I got kind of like straight into the partying and
Okay.
um yeah, I guess maybe not just to like not to follow your dreams, but just to slow down, breathe
Sure.
and slow down.
Appreciate it a little bit more.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah.
Smell the roses, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Well, if okay, so 16-year-old me, that was 1998 or 9 or something, 9 or 2000. Okay, so I guess for me, I would probably, that was the time where I was starting to finally get more comfortable coming out to some people. Um, it was a long time coming, but I think I would tell myself that that you're going to be accepted by a lot more people than you believe. Um, and it's okay to be this person that has seemed to be your biggest struggle because nobody wanted you to be that person. And it's okay to be that person. Don't let other people tell you that it's not okay to be this person, no matter what decade it is, no matter what time it is. Um, because I think I might have been a little more outgoing, especially in the romantic world too. Because I think I've had two actual relationships in my lifetime, like romantic relationships, and they didn't last very long. So I would like to, have give myself that opportunity to actually try to love a little bit more in that way. Um, and I think I would also, the same kind of style of what you're going is just go for the dreams you want. You are more talented than you're going to let yourself believe for the next 20 years almost. Um, and you have a lot more to bring and you could make it. You can make it. You just have to work a lot harder than you think you do.
Yeah, I would love to tell myself that too. I honestly, I have to tell myself that every day. I mean,
Right?
not to
Right?
open up a new topic, but
It's okay.
I always forget that, I'm really hard on myself. I'll talk to my friend Jenny and I'll be like,
Hmm.
"Oh, I didn't do anything today," and I'll be really hard on myself. She's like, "Well, what did you actually do?" And I'll tell her, well, she's like, "Well, you got out of bed. That's something."
Right? And I like that one. I really like that one. That's a good one. Like I like having that checklist in the morning of, okay, I got up. I showered today. Wow, that's an impressive goal. Just letting them grow off each other, like, ooh, boom, boom, boom. And suddenly you have this whole like stacked accomplishments for a day if you just find yourself making sure that to give yourself credit for just getting up.
Yeah, just being,
Hmm.
just yeah.
I think one of my favorite quotes, and because I think you and I will always jump back to somehow reference this, is a Buffy the Vampire Slayer quote from season 5, the season finale, which was technically also considered a series finale. It is probably one of the most iconic episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer because it is the episode where Buffy makes the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of build up for that season, I remember, but it still shocked us all. Um,
I have
and
goosebumps right now, so clearly it
I
still
know
shocks me.
it does. We're still not over it, and that's over 20 years ago now. But so anyway, um, it was her saying to Dawn right before she did it is the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. And it's
Oh,
literally the thing that has gotten me through the last almost 20 years, or whatever, is that one line has literally been my saving grace of living for this world. And that's why I think there's such a special thing for Buffy with me, just like there's a special place for Dawson's Creek, and that's a story for another time too. But but Buffy, I mean, that quote, the hardest thing in this world is to live in it, is just the one thing that has probably gotten me through every single day. Because if that's the hardest thing, then I can do this.
right, right. I also like to remind myself that I have survived 100% of my worst days.
Exactly. I
So,
mean, not when you look at it from that angle, like I know it's a cliche to say looking at it from the glass is half full or whatever. If you just change that perspective occasionally. I mean, sometimes it's harder. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I wake up some days and I don't want to be awake. I want to go back to sleep because I would rather be unconscious today. You know,
Yes.
I mean, it's like, and we're not the only ones. There's so many. I'm sure people who are listening to this are right there. They're like, yep, exactly. Yep. Because the hardest thing in this world is to live in it. And sometimes it's too hard for me to do that today. You know, so I'm gonna turn on the TV and I'm gonna Netflix a show for the next 16 hours, and then I'm
Yep.
gonna go to bed. Like there are some days, and you know what? There are some days where I'll think about that and I'll look at it like today. This is self care. Today, this is just my reset button. I need this today because it's the only thing I can afford to do to relax, and it's the only thing that it's the easiest thing, and it's something that will relax me is just sitting and rewatching a season of Buffy or Once Upon a Time, because that's another obsession of mine, or anything. Sometimes I'm something current that I'm watching. You know, I find new Netflix shows every day. But those are some of those days where I'm okay that that's a self care day. But then I'm also, looking at it, I'm like 6 days in a row, probably not self care anymore.
I was
Um,
just thinking that a thought like that.
yeah.
I go through that process too. Like, when does
Mhm.
it stop being self-care and turn into self-loathing? You know?
Yes. Like there's a fine line between those two, and at some point you can only use that excuse as being self-care. So it's like you better make sure you use that self-care button the right way, because at some point people are going to be like, okay, now it's not self-care, now we're worried about you. You know,
Right, exactly.
like a lot of my friends know that I'm that person that will literally make a whole bunch of plans and either forget about them or cancel them at the last minute because I am that person.
Same.
And I hate doing it because all I want to do is go out and socialize with my people. All I want to do is spend a couple hours just being with other people. It is my one of my favorite things to do in the entire world. But sometimes I would rather not, because expelling energy from me is that I have so much. Turning off my mind sometimes is a lot to do, and so I don't focus well. And so if you notice, even on my podcast here, I like to talk, but I don't always like to listen. And so it's really nice to have these conversations because we talk and we relate, but I clearly like to talk. But I sometimes just want to like be alone, but because I'm not very lonely when I've got my friends like Buffy and things like that. And then tomorrow I'll people, I'll
Mm-hmm.
go people tomorrow. Like
Yep.
I work in customer service. I'm always working with people,
Yep.
you know. So I get it. So it's like, and I think other people get that too. There's a lot of exhaustion there. And I'm a performer. I love to go out and perform. I love to network, but I'm mostly comfortable when all eyes are on me and I don't have to listen to other people. But I'm trying really hard lately. That's one of my big things is to actually, when I'm going to have a conversation with somebody, it doesn't have to be 90% me and 10% them, you know?
Yeah. Well, this is good.
And
This is a good interaction for us then, because I like to talk too.
oh yeah.
And I'm also learning that, most
Mhm.
people, in fact, tonight at the meeting, the reading that we did was about how most people, um, they don't listen to learn. They listen, or they talk, they wait for their chance to respond rather than just to listen,
Right.
and I feel like that hit me hard. Like, oh my God, I do that
Hmm.
all the time. I just wait for the
Hmm.
person to stop talking so I can put in my 2 cents. And I
100%.
yeah, and I get impatient about it sometimes. Like, come on, just finish your thought, or I'm going to finish it for you, which is
I
incredibly
like, yeah.
selfish and arrogant. But
Hmm.
it's just, I get so impatient with some people. And it's,
Right.
why don't you just get this? It's so simple. I don't understand why we're having a 25-minute conversation about nothing or
I know
what
this.
have you.
This literally illustrates a terrible point to that because I'm about to almost sound like a hypocrite or have a double standard or whatever. But at the same time, I I teach improv comedy, and the nice thing about improv comedy is that you can use those skills. I suppose I'm not going to sound like a hypocrite. I think the thought was different. This is actually a very healthy way of why I love improv, is that improv forces me to listen and focus on other people because I have to bounce off what they're doing on stage. And I have to pay attention to what character they're giving me so that I know what I'm working with. And if you look at that the same way in a conversation, in like a group that you're in, you have to think of it as improv, is the fact that you don't have time to plan out your whole monologue that you're about to share. Just like that's why I love that our flow of this conversation, nothing is prepared. We're not like scripted. We're not running off our own a whole bunch of notes. It's literally we're just having a conversation,
Hmm.
and that's what I like. Is but we're feeding each other the energy of what to do, and that's life. Because conversing and listening to each other has been one of my biggest weaknesses in the world, and in life and with social interactions. And so sometimes I don't fully connect to other people because I'm not listening to them. I hear them. I listen, I stop and I'm respectful and polite, but I'm not really listening to them. I'm waiting to respond because I'm like, I have to wait till eyes are back on me again.
Right. Like same thing, I with certain it's with some people I'm better than with others. It depends on
Mhm.
this sounds super arrogant, but it depends on where you're at on like what level we're on
Right.
in our friendship.
Yeah.
If you're just somebody that I see once a week at the meeting,
Hmm.
and you stop and talk to me, chances are I will look at you, and sometimes I can look at you and not hear anything that comes out of your mouth. And I don't know why that happens, but it's like my
Hmm.
whole brain just shuts off. And then I was like, uh-oh, what? And then I feel
Yeah.
like a jerk. But then there's, it's just those, oh, what's the word I'm looking for? They're just like, I don't want to say shallow or like Fight Club. They're single serving people in my life.
Hmm.
We just have a brief interaction and I hear them, I hear what they're saying, but I'm not listening into the depth that I would listen to, say, you or my best friend Samantha, or just people I interact with once a week. We're not on that level. So I hear what they're saying, but I'm not listening at a level that's going to produce some great piece of advice to help them fix their life
Yeah.
or to help move them forward in their life because I've given up on trying to fix anybody's life. I can't even fix my own.
All right.
So,
And I like that you brought that up about yourself of who you were early, like before you were a people pleaser, just like me. You were all about that, caring about other people because, like, I think it was our way of because of not trying to be selfish in this world because we see so many people who are literally out for just themselves, and it's like, but that's how do you do that? Like, other people need help, and I can help. But what are we pushing off on our own personal things when we're doing that, you know? That's what I worry about with myself.
definitely. I know that for a long time, especially back then, I would help everyone. So I
Hmm.
didn't have to understand what was wrong with me. Because if
Right?
I'm focusing, like, let's say I'm focusing on your problems as an example, like, generic example, then I don't have to have any um, internal monologue of my own saying, look, you need help, you need to do this. Instead, I
Hmm.
can use what I need to tell myself. I can tell you because that makes me feel useful.
Hmm.
And I've learned now to set boundaries on that. Like if I can't give, like my cup had a hole in it for so long, and I would let people just suck my energy out and suck, and I would just give it away. And now I I'm more aware of when I'm getting worn down from people or when I need to take a break from certain friends, which I've learned is okay, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like a light bulb went off. And I've learned that if I don't take my quiet time to reset, I am zero fun to be around. Like
I,
I'm
yeah.
a jerk, you know?
Yep.
I'm
Hmm.
short with people. I listen even less,
Hmm.
you know, and my opinions or my thoughts get a lot sharper edged than they would if I just took the time to step back inside myself, take a deep breath, and let it go.
Let it go. Make like Elsa and let it go.
Yes, I sing it all the time to myself, all the time.
Oh, her newer songs in Frozen 2, though, are just even more powerful.
Oh,
Um,
please, I was all up in my cries and feels.
ugh, it was beautiful.
Yes.
Another topic for another time, though. I could talk about Frozen and Frozen 2 forever. But yeah, so I also like that you brought up the internal monologue. Uh, I think that's a great topic for us to wrap up this podcast with, or this episode with, I should say, is the internal monologue, which I'd like to have a whole discussion on a topic sometime because I literally just read that. I think I was shared it on Facebook too. I read someone. I wish I remembered all the details, but let's have a podcast about it. But just to touch on that, I loved that story. Are you? I mean, are you getting what I'm saying? Did you read it?
Are you talking about the one where the person doesn't have an internal monologue? Or,
Yeah, they're talking about how they hear from other people about people like us who have that internal monologue. We're narrating our entire life
yeah,
as we do it. Like, I am going to go to the bathroom now.
I am my
I,
own
you know,
sitcom.
yes, I have a whole freaking cast orchestra going on. Like, I've always thought of people as my, people are in my life and my story, and I'm the catalyst. I am the Will and Grace of my show, or I'm the Roseanne of my show. Everything's centered about me in my mind, even though I don't. And so that's why I've always been more narcissistic in that sense that you're all here to advance my character. But now I'm playing that card where I'm like, oh, okay, well, my character's been advanced. I suppose I should start helping other people advance theirs, you
Hmm.
know? And let's have a spin-off series, and I will be featured in their series, helping them, you know, in,
Right.
in that context.
Yeah, because then, realistically, we can't have a reboot on our own life, even though that would be nice. Even
And
though
that's what I'm saying.
I hate everything about reboots. I'm just going to put that out there and we'll probably talk about that another day. But
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
my internal monologue, oh my gosh, if it was an external, I would probably uh, be under the supervision of a doctor.
Oh, absolutely, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I definitely know there's a lot of things I feel that I probably should be in a lot more mental health like recovery than I really give myself credit for, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, but uh, if but I know that right now I'm working on the things that I can work on, you know.
Yes, me too.
And yeah, and so I'll get there. I'll get there. And the like we say, it's best to just know that each day is a one day at a time kind of thing. You literally have to just get up and do and be proud of yourself if you kept that commitment to go to lunch with your friends, even though you really would have rather not because you weren't feeling it. I find that I'm more proud of myself, and once I get out there and I'm like, I did this, I'm here, and I'm happy I did, you know.
Yes, you get all, or not you, but I get all anxious about like I get excited when I make plans with somebody, but if
Hmm.
it's too many days forward, like today's Wednesday, if I make plans with
Yep.
somebody for Saturday, like I'm cool with it today, but
Yep.
come like Friday
I
afternoon, I get so full of anxiety. I'm like, oh my God, I have to go hang out with somebody.
Yes.
I committed to something. I can't
Yes.
do it.
And you look at it and you want to respond, I'm not that person anymore. you know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not that person that I was Wednesday when I committed to this. And it's like people are like, honor your commitments. And I know I know the fact that if I cancel on this person and then I cancel on this person again and I cancel on this person again and I cancel on this person again, at some point this person's gonna be like, you know what? I'm not gonna bother making plans with you anymore. And I'm like, you know what? That's fair. That's
Right.
totally fair. That's on
Right.
me. That's on me. But there are some people who would literally be like, "Oh my God, you're such a jerk. You're such an asshole for not." Can you say asshole on podcasts?
I
I think
think
so.
so. I've
Uh,
kept it clean, which is super, super hard for me.
Me too. But
Uh,
let's. I suppose I don't want to be like. Let's not keep this going for long. But I try to not. But I'd like that if your children heard this podcast in the background, you wouldn't be so upset.
just earmuffs. Just earmuffs.
Yeah. Um, but I think, I mean, I think we touched on a lot of the now and then that we got into a really good discussion about our mental health and where we are on our recovery, which is so good. It's exactly what I want this podcast to be. It's exactly what I want to put out in the world. And it's good because being honest and being open about what is going on in our own personal recoveries, whether it be chemical dependencies or just, anxiety, depression, to which a good portion of America deals with every day, whether they're fully clinically diagnosed or not.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that.
Yep.
Um, and some people are medicated and some people are not. Some people are stronger with coping skills and some people are not. Some people need a lot more support in their lives daily and some people don't. Uh, and it's nice when we can be conversing about this and talking about it like it's a normal part of everyday life because so many people are just so afraid to
Right.
talk about it because of what perception.
Right. Well, and mental health has been shamed for hundreds of years,
Hmm.
and so now that people are becoming more
Aware.
accepting and aware of it,
Hmm.
like, oh, she's not just lazy, or she's not, or she or he or whatever. They're not lazy. They're not seeking attention. They're not, there's something chemically, there's a chemical imbalance in the brain that
Yep.
needs a different kind of support than, say, somebody with a broken arm. I don't know.
Hmm.
That's a poor example, but it's just different kinds of medical needs. Like
Yep.
for a long time, I I didn't want to admit that I had mental health problems. Like I knew I
Hmm.
had some, but I didn't want to admit when they got so bad, you know, because
Hmm.
people are going, oh, she's crazy. Oh, she's, don't hang out with her. She's sick. She's attention seeking. She's whatever. And that's, of course,
Yep.
that was my perception of what I thought their opinion of was me or was of me.
Yes. I know what you're saying exactly. It's the overthinking and overthinking of what their perception is of you. And
Right.
then suddenly you build that whole thing up and suddenly you're just driving yourself into this unhealthy world that literally that person was literally just like, hmm, that's a really nice shirt they're wearing. Like
Except,
literally, that's
yeah.
probably what that person was looking at you doing. And you have built up this whole scenario in your mind that, or several scenarios
Yeah. Oh,
in your
I've
mind of
orchestrated a whole
a
chapter
whole
on,
thing.
oh, they were looking at me funny. Oh, does this shirt now, does this make me look fat?
Yep.
Does, or is this sticking out? Is that sticking out? And
Hmm.
in um I guess to wrap up what I was saying about that, it's been on my mind. I think that you would appreciate this. One of the best pieces of advice that I've gotten from a very close friend of mine is that other people's opinions of me are none of my business.
Exactly. Oh my God. That is a great ending line for our episode today. It's like because it's just exactly that. I read that I think this year somewhere on a Facebook post probably or something, because everything's so woke on Facebook. And but I like that. It's so true. Whatever someone else's opinion is of you is none of your business. It's literally because, like, literally, that's that person's mind. Whatever they're thinking of you, is their problem, their business, what they have to deal with as a perception. And unfortunately, if they choose that they're going to be negative to you and not accept you for who you are, that's on them. That's on, I mean, if you're not doing anything personally to attack or hurt this person, they just don't like you for not being you. That's on them. They've
Hmm.
they've closed that door to a different friendship and a different style, and I don't have the time to be worrying about that anymore. I spent too much time caring, and so it's a good way to just think that way.
Yep. And that's a huge change from me then to now.
Hmm. Correct.
And I know that you can
Same with
completely relate.
100%, 100%. And so I think that the then and now conversations are great because we get to see our growth as people.
Yes. Yes.
Well, anyway, I think that's all the time we have for this episode, but I'm very happy that we had this conversation. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having this again. I think you're gonna be on this a lot more than I think I ever thought you would be, and I'm okay with that if you are.
I am absolutely
Uh,
okay with that. I'm
uh,
super excited to be a part of this journey with you.
It's really good, and I'm so happy. I'd love to hear a lot more what the listeners think about our conversations, and we'll come up with different topics. What they want us to talk about is great. Let's do it. Sometimes I'll be on here probably by myself doing some segments, but you know what? I think you're going to be on here a lot more. I hope the audience says so. Tell us in the comments what you think, audience. All right.
Absolutely. Let me know. Let us know what you think of us.
Right, right, because we really want to know because we're narcissists.
Right. Because I'm so worried about your opinions of me.
Yeah, but we want to know what you think of our show for
Yeah,
sure.
legitimately.
All right, all right. Well, we're gonna wrap this up and say good night, Lisa.
Good night, Aaron. Have a fabulous evening.
You were supposed to say good night, Lisa, but
Oh,
okay.
good night,
All
Lisa.
right.
I don't play very well. All right.
Good good night, Neverland.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye. All right, and that's a wrap on this episode. Thank you again to Lisa for joining me again for another late night phone call. This one being called Now and Then. We'll be having a lot more of these. I really like where we're going with this. I hope you do as well. Let me know in the comments on my Facebook page. It is To Be Fair, a podcast, or my own personal page, Aaron Jordan Peterson. Thank you, and have a good time, and we'll talk to you later.